Oh my, what a way to enter. Hello, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be reading again tonight. We're getting through the book. I got another book planned actually. Grabbed a book from my building's free library today. Just went and saw what they had. I almost grabbed a Sylvia Plath book, like a book of her poetry. I was like, oh, I could do that. I could read that. But then I was like, maybe not. Then I found another book, and then I heard about another author I wanted to check out. So I ordered a book. So I'm in the book world. I got books on the brain. We will be booking because we are getting through this lovely book, The Art of the Deal. Donald J. Trump with Tony Schwartz. Yeah. Chapter 13. How many more chapters? I think we have like 2 chapters, really. Wow. Yeah, 2 more chapters. I don't know if I'll be able to get through all of this one tonight, though. Oh, the index. How interesting. Oh. What year was this one published? I just noticed they had some website addresses in the back of the book, so I'm wondering when this was printed. I didn't look. 2015. Okay, this edition is from 2015. I hadn't realized. So it's kind of a modern version. Hello to Tomas. He says, Lady Terri, you appear to be busy. Perhaps I shall visit another time. Alas, my dear Tomas has went back to one of his holes. Hi, Rome. How are you? Rome 13's here. Rock and roll, Rome. Slow start tonight. You know what? I am going to wait a moment for people to come in and put some lotion on my hands. We can wait for it to kind of get cooking in here before I get all into the reading. Sometimes I like to just jump in, but I think, no, why not? A little self-care moment. Oh, I love the smell of this lotion. It's like really light and pleasant. Two more chapters, y'all. 2 more chapters. Do you like how I spelled Donald Trump in the title? Donald Trunt. I wondered if I should put the J in. I kind of had a moment. Was like, should I go in and put the J in? Jeff got work tomorrow. Me too. But I have a half day, so looking forward to that. Thank you, Golden Rule TV. Says looking cute as always. Aw, I do my best. Some days I'm cuter than others, but thank you. As long as I just hit that, Oh, anyway. How are y'all tonight? Are you ready to have me read you a bedtime story about a magical man named Donald Trump, who will be our future ruler, our figurehead? Yeah, that was I was riffing off of Jesse there. Rome, yeah. Read away, it's Z time. Nika. I like that for a girl. Nika for a girl. I can't say it, y'all. Can't say it. For a boy. I can type it. But I can't say it. unless I'm like reading it in something. Okay, let's continue. So chapter 13 is titled Comeback, a West Side Story. The toughest business decision I ever made was giving up my option on the West Side yards, 78 riverfront acres between 59th Street and 72nd Street, in the summer of 1979. The easiest business decision I ever made was buying back those same 100 acres in January 1985. Oh, I wondered about the yards. He'd been talking about that. Don't be like Arthur, LOL. I don't get it, the reference. I'm sorry. Eek. Okay. I have a tendency to get very enthusiastic about any deal I make, but I suspect few people would argue that those 100 acres represent the single best underdeveloped piece of property in America today. It has been reported that I paid $95 million for the West Side yards, or about $1 million an acre, which is not far from the correct figure. Taking the time value of money into account, I paid less to purchase the site in 1985 than I would have if I exercised my option to buy them in 1979. During the intervening years, the price of most Manhattan real estate increased as much as 5 times, even before I put up a single building. I'm certain I could sell the property at a very substantial profit, and I've turned down numerous offers already. Consider just one comparison. Very shortly after I bought the West Side yards, another group of developers paid approximately $500 million for the Columbus Circle Coliseum site, a tiny property by comparison and just 4 blocks away. I just don't know which Arthur you're referring to. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know it's a joke. I just don't like get it. Shucks. Am I digging my hair? I don't know. I'm like, do I want it behind me? How do I want the hair? It's just been kind of crazy today. JLP color. I don't know. I might have missed Arthur. Who was that guy that got really angry? I'm trying to remember. He like vacillated. He got so angry and then he'd be chill just a moment later. It was so unnerving, but I can't remember what he was called. Wasn't there a guy named Jerome that called in too? Hair up. Yeah, I was thinking about putting my hair up, but then I didn't. Well, where did I put the big clip anyway? Yeah, my neck though. Yeah, I should show it off more. It is one of my assets. But then it's like putting the hair up right so that it sits right, because, you know, I don't know. I'll play with it in a bit. Let me continue. He went pull it. Maybe it was the guy that went. Okay, so maybe it's the same guy. Yeah. That was an interesting call. Yeah. Did y'all like my call on Joelle's? Did y'all listen? Did you hear me talk to Joelle today about trans serving in the military and women serving in the military, and then women as police officers? I don't know, man. I don't think it's a good idea. None of it. I just don't. I was great. I feel like I got a little too, I realized as I was talking about this, actually, I love that I called because I had a moment of clarity when I was calling Joelle, and I was like, you know what, thinking about this stuff too much does upset me. I shouldn't be worrying my pretty little head, like really, because I think I have done myself a lot of stress over the years, like worrying about these issues. And even as I was talking to him, I was like, oh, it just makes me ill when I think about it. Yeah, and that's what it does when you start to think about the, you know, layers of corruption and just brutality and lack of care and falsity and, you know, maneuvering going on behind the scenes. And you start to look at like how evil is allowed to spread and how people utilize it to serve various ends. It just, you know, it is very appalling. So yeah, I shouldn't be wearing my pretty little head. They'll take a woman as a chef. Yeah, that was crazy too. There was a lot of weird stuff. Yeah, I'm not liking my hair actually. And now, like, it was out of my face when I came over here, and now it's. I'm gonna at least put some of it up, just some of it away. I don't think all of it. You'll take a woman as a chef. Women are cooks, they're not chefs. Maybe they are. Maybe a woman, yeah, can be a chef. I mean, obviously, there have been really great cooks that have been women. You know, it'd be fun. So I get into the Reddit, or not Reddit, what is it? The Discord. Doll Snatch has started a Discord that for the show, because I wanted to do like, I don't know, just like watch parties. So I'll be planning something in there, but something that I'd love to watch with y'all is like the Duchess of Duke Street, this show from the 70s about it's based off of a real woman's life. She was like a mistress of the Prince of Wales, Prince Edward, who became, she was a cook, basically, a really good cook. She became his, like, one of his mistresses and ended up like running a really famous hotel in London. And like, you know, they had really prestigious guests, and she was friends with a lot of like, you know, society people, even though she was from really humble backgrounds, you know. And she just, yeah, there's a really cool Duchess of Duke Street, man. We got to watch that. And she learned from a French chef too. So the kitchen scenes are like some of my favorites. Tattoo on my left arm. What do you mean? This one? Which one? I assume you mean this one. Yeah, I usually have it covered. Pretty sick, huh? Some people noticed it at church and then got into an uncomfortable conversation with me about like tattoos, where they made me feel weird. Because yeah, I don't really show off. I'm covered most of the time. Like I wear long sleeves. But I was wearing this sweater actually on Sunday, and I just kind of lifted my arm, you know, and kind of put it up on a table. And yeah, I guess they got a shot of the tat they never saw before. Like they knew I had tattoos, but they didn't know like to the extent. They can be weird about tattoos. People are weird about tattoos a lot of the time. It's not just Christians. A lot of people have judgments about, I even have judgments about them. I have judgments about like what kind of tattoos people get. I have judgments about like men having tattoos, you know, like, I don't know. I kind of, it's weird. I see it as like really feminine. I mean, not entirely, it depends on how many and where, but like, and the quality of the tattoos too has something, or the type of tattoos, but yeah, it can be off-putting. Tatiana has a gnarly neck tattoo. I used to want to get something on my neck, but I wouldn't at this time at all. I'm glad that, you know, I've been really moderate about tattooing. But I like the way they look on some people. Like there's something really, you see women will have like leaf patterns or like very simple things on the neck. It is beautiful. I have no idea who Tatiana is. I assume she's another streamer or something, or some kind of, I don't know, IDK. Yeah, so anyway, had a interesting kind of uncomfortable conversation about my tattoos. Anyway, it happens. What up though, D. John Pa, the mustard man? How's it going? I'm getting back into the book, y'all. I got the yards at a great price because a bank was foreclosing on a desperate seller. Because I made a deal before the property was offered for sale on the open market, and because I was one of the few developers both willing and able to pay millions of dollars a year in carrying costs for as long as it took to get the yards developed. Securing the option to purchase the West Side yards from the Penn Central Railroad back in 1974 was the first major deal I made in Manhattan. At the time, as I've said, the city was on the verge of bankruptcy, and the West Side was hardly considered a great place. It says to, and then it just cuts off. A great place to. Okay. But I had a simple conviction. I couldn't go very wrong buying spectacular riverfront property in the middle of Manhattan at a bargain basement price. Over the next 5 years, however, government subsidies dried up for the kind of middle-income housing I was proposing. Community opposition to any development on the West Side reached a fever pitch, and banks remained reluctant to finance any large-scale developments. Perhaps most important, I was launching other projects, among them the Commodore Hyatt, Trump Tower, and my first Atlantic City casino. Nor was I eager to load myself down with huge carrying costs while my personal resources were still very limited. By devoting myself to other deals instead, I generated a cash flow large enough to support the carrying costs on virtually any project. I also built a record of success that made banks happy to lend me money for nearly any deal. Shortly after I gave up my original option in 1979, the Penn Central sold the West Side yards to my friend Abe Hirschfeld. Oh, not metal music. She's from Ukraine, dang. Take a struggle. The queen of metal from Ukraine, girl. Doing the most. I'm teasing, obviously. Okay, sounds interesting. Very quickly, at least I'd be interested to see her tattoos. A neck tattoo, nonetheless. I have a friend who recently got some neck tattooing done, actually. She got some like pepper plants. So yeah, I do think the like plant neck thing is, yeah, it could be very pretty. Those type of lines on the neck, but I don't know. I like my neck. I kind of always saw like that. Even though I want to be tattooed, I also want to have the ability to not appear like overly tattooed or just, have parts of me that are bare. Yeah, the nape. I did think about getting a nape tattoo before, like at the back, but I wouldn't do it now. I don't want any tattoos that I can't see. You know what I mean? If I can't look at it, like, what's the point of having it? I don't want something that's like behind me. It's always appeared odd. Like, I mean, I guess I could see it in a mirror or something, but I don't know. Don't do it. I already have tattoos, Jeff. He says tattoos are ugly. Don't do it. Too late. We passed that. Okay. Okay, we're past that. I have crossed that threshold. Sings like an angel, then growls like a demon. Demon, she is the most beautiful creature on this earth. Jeez, okay, dang. You're feeling her, okay. Wow, okay. I don't like music where like there's growling or like yelling. I hate screaming. Like when they're screaming in music, I just it's not gonna work for me. I can't deal with that stuff. I need to be pretty, you know? I need to be pretty. He says tattoos aren't ugly, it's all about perception. Yeah, I don't think they're ugly. I really enjoy them. At certain tattoos I find like so amazing, like so interesting. I don't know, guys. You know, it's one of those things. I understand why people have a problem with it. And I understand, like, you know, because these ladies that were talking to me, they were saying that your body is the temple of God. I don't think that, you know, God is going to hold it against me that I've gotten tattoos. He knew that I was that way, that I'd be drawn on things. No, I understand, like, yeah. But I think there's something to the aesthetic of them, you know, being tattooed in certain parts. I like them. I like when people are very heavily tattooed as well. I find it really like intriguing to look at them. God held it against Lilith. What, did she get a tattoo? Of course she did. Okay, Mina. And you would know about Skanky, wouldn't you, honey? I'll take your word for it. Yeah, I agree, Jeff. I agree. I do judge tattoos. Like I can't sit here and say I never judge tattoos though. Like I said, depending on what somebody has, I'm judging. Matthew mentioned a tattoo the other day that like just horrified me. So I don't know. Let's continue. Enough of this. Enough of this tattoo talk. I'm glad y'all got to see my like really wicked cool one. Let's see. Okay. By devoting myself to other deals instead, I generated a cash flow large enough to support the carrying costs on virtually any project. I also built a record of success that made banks happy to lend me money for nearly any deal. Shortly after I gave up my original option, oh wait, no, I just read this, didn't I? Okay. I'll read it anyway. Shortly after I gave up my original option in 1979, the Penn Central sold the West Side Yards to my friend Abe Hirschfeld. Very quickly, Abe went out and got himself a partner on the deal. Francisco Macri became wealthy in the 1960s building bridges for the government in his native Argentina. Under the deal with Hirschfeld, Macri agreed to take over the job totally. Hirschfeld retained a substantial percentage of profits, but no ongoing role in the project. Macri, in turn, gave the job of overseeing the project day to day a man named Carlos Varsovsky, a former physics professor who'd been running Macri's Argentinian company, BA Capital. BA Capital. Chat is crazy right now. Oh my gosh. What up, Stacy? The Macri team had plenty of brain power. What they lacked was practical experience, especially in New York City, where it is so difficult to do any sort of real estate development. The first key to developing any huge Manhattan site is getting the necessary approvals to build a job that is economically viable. Rezoning is a complex, highly political, and very time-consuming process that ultimately involves a dozen city and state agencies, as well as local community groups and politicians. Macri did finally manage to get his zoning for the project he named Lincoln West, but in the process he made far too many concessions to the city. Being forced to sell out may have been the best thing that ever happened to him. If Macri had ever tried to build the project under the terms to which he'd agreed, he would have lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Wow. It was sad in a way because Franco Macri is a wonderful and well-meaning man, but he made a critical misjudgment from the start. He assumed that in a project as big as the West Side Yards, he could afford to absorb nearly any costs and still end up. There's a little fly in here. Go away. The truth is that unless you design a project to be self-supporting as you build it, you risk getting eaten alive before you've turned the corner into profit. One of Macri's problems was that he tried to apply the principles of bridge building to a residential development. When you build a bridge under contract to the government, you calculate the costs and sign a contract for a set amount. All you need to do to earn a profit is bring the project in on a budget. In developing real estate, it's a whole different ballgame. You can budget building costs, but you can't truly project revenues because you're always at the mercy of the market. The variables include how much you get per unit, how long it takes to sell out, and what your carrying costs are along the way. The less you commit to spend up front, the less you're at risk later. Instead, Macri spent 3 years mostly in the business of giveaways. The city, eager to get all it could in return for approving the project, asked Macri for concession after concession. Macri began by agreeing to provide $30 million to refurbish the 72nd Street subway station nearest to the project, even though the projected renovation amounted to little more than widening a single platform by 4 feet. For $30 million, you ought to be able to totally rebuild a station. This is so crazy. No, Matthew, no. The haircut, hairdresser had a big old butterfly tattoo on the small of her back, who made sure everyone saw it. Oh dear. See, yeah, I judge stuff like that. Like, that's a tattoo I would judge, especially like you're at work. I mean, I know it's kind of like an alternative job in some ways, I guess. I don't know. But you shouldn't be, there's just certain parts of your body that people shouldn't see unless they're like intimate, I feel. She was a hottie with tons of tattoos. Okay, well, I guess if you got it, flaunt it. Maybe I'm judging, but I can't. I've always felt like, yeah. Oh no. Maina has a friend that has her ex's name tattooed on her. So yeah, I judge that. When people have like get names tattooed on them, no. Like, yeah. Like that's just such a no-no. It's such a no-no. And like I said, I don't like writing in tattoos generally. Like get a picture of something or like some shapes or designs. Like, why are you getting writing? I don't like it. Okay. Next, Macri threw in a $5 million pledge for a railroad flat car operation in the South Bronx to replace the one he'd be eliminating in the West Side yards. Then he promised to chip in $30 million for a public park within his development. Later, he agreed to build a new public through street connecting with the existing city grid, a job that would surely cost tens of millions of dollars. Wow. When Con Edison, oh. No, the name is Vlad. No, Maina. That looks like you belong to a pimp or something, you know? It's very, like, Vlad, girl, she needs to get that covered up. Why does she still have that? Like, why hasn't she saved her money to get like a butterfly over it or something, you know? Get something like girly. Unless she's just like all about Vlad still. She's still feeling Vlad. She's still waiting for Vlad. Yeah, at least it's a cool name. Was it, if it was for Vladimir Putin, maybe? That Vlad? I can't think of any other Vlads you would get, you know, tattooed on you. Oh, God. Okay, enough. When Con Edison asked Macri to underwrite the cost of rebuilding a smokestack the company owned on the site, he even agreed to that. This I found particularly preposterous. Con Edison already gets one of the highest utility rates in the country. When I met Macri, I asked him why he had agreed to do anything for Con Ed. He shortens the guy's name, Con Edison, to Con Ed. Yeah, she should get Putin next to it or get it covered up. Get it covered up with a butterfly or put Putin next to it. Just, you know, do something. Wasn't it enough, I asked, that over the years he was going to be buying billions of dollars worth of electricity from them? They told me they were going to oppose my project, Macri explained. And anyway, what's the big deal? How much can a smokestack cost? Suddenly I understood. Franco Macri hadn't bothered to check, but I did. To put a needle 500 feet into the air, it turns out, costs nearly as much as putting up a building. It could run to $30 or even $40 million, I told Macri. He still didn't seem fazed. By the time he'd finished being generous to anyone who asked, Macri had committed more than $100 million in giveaways. Worse yet, he'd agreed to pay in full for much of it before he'd erected any buildings, much less sold a single apartment. This guy don't know what he's doing. He's in over his head. Oh, my Matthew. Equally bad was the zoning to which Macri finally agreed. By the time the process was finished, he'd been negotiated down to less than 4,300 residential units on his 100-acre site, a density lower than you find in some 6-story apartment complexes in the suburbs. More specifically, Macri agreed to build just 850 units in the most valuable part of his site, 68th Street to 72nd Street, which was adjacent to an existing residential neighborhood. The great majority of his apartments he agreed to put in the undeveloped industrial southern end of the site, where the residential market remained totally untested. Anti-development forces on the Upper West Side barely had to fight with Macri. He became his own worst enemy. The last major mistake Macri made was that he never set out to create any excitement about his Lincoln West project. During the 4 years when he owned this terrific piece of property, virtually not a word was written about it. Even the name Lincoln West implied that, despite the fact that this represented one of the largest and potentially most important developments in the United States, it was merely a job located west of Lincoln Center. An average 150-unit luxury high-rise building in New York takes 2 years to sell out, and that assumes a strong market and good promotion. To sell literally thousands of units in a new development requires that you have both something unique to sell and a very aggressive approach to selling it. Macri had neither. The Lincoln West development he had proposed, 24 relatively short brick buildings, was as bland and uninspiring as any of a dozen public housing projects that were thrown up around Manhattan during the 1960s. It was scarcely surprising that not one of at least a dozen banks Macri called on over 3 years was willing to lend him money for his construction, even though banks were practically throwing money at dozens of other New York City developments. I know, Stacy. It's quite an interesting juxtaposition, isn't it? I know, Matthew. I love the banter between Stacy and Matthew in the chat. It's so funny. It's like one of my favorites when y'all get together and chat, banter. It's fun. I enjoy it. Anybody else in the chat enjoy it? I enjoy it. Don't call my laugh evil. Evil. Ugh, okay, let's continue. So basically, this guy doesn't know what he's doing and he has no vision. And to boot, he can't get any money for the project. It's like it just was meant to be. Trump was meant to have that land. I believe it. I believe it. I can see God moving here now. Trump was the man that was going to develop that land properly. Let's find out how. By late 1983, Macri had also personal cash problems. The war in the Falklands apparently had hurt his business interests in Argentina. By this point, counting outlays for architectural staff, environmental impact studies, and carrying costs, Macri was probably into Lincoln West for more than $100 million. Caught in a crunch, he began defaulting on the original loan he'd taken from Chase Manhattan to purchase the land. Oh dear. In the spring of 1984, I got a call from Abe Hirschfeld. He told me that Macri was in trouble and was interested in selling. I went to see Macri, and we began a long negotiation. He was eager to get out with a profit. At the same time, the bank was breathing down his neck. Sure enough, in November, we finally agreed to an all-cash price of approximately $100 million, and Chase agreed to finance a good part of the transaction. One of the reasons Franco Macri agreed to sell to me, I'm convinced, is that I'd done him a favor long before we finally made a deal. Shortly after our first meeting in early 1984, we agreed on the terms of a tentative deal under which Macri would sell me the project. He wasn't yet certain that he wanted to sell, but he was willing to consider signing at least a letter of intent. One of the first things that anyone should learn about real estate, and New York real estate in particular, is to never sign a letter of intent. Probably not, Stacy. Probably not at this point. Unless it was like so much better. Unless it was like so much better. But I love my little, my little phone. My little thrill phone. It is so much better, Maina. Y'all have to explain to me what's so much better about it. Years can be spent in court trying to get out of a seemingly simple and quote-unquote non-binding agreement. Macri did not fully realize this, and in addition, my lawyer, Jerry Schrager, drafted a letter of intent that was significantly more binding than most. It was with an eye to getting this letter signed that Jerry and I sat down in mid-1984 in an extraordinary apartment at the Sherry Netherland Hotel, along with Macri, his young son, and a beautiful interpreter named Christina. She was a true Latin beauty. Oh, here we go. And all of us were somewhat distracted. Why? I'll never forget Christina stopping in the middle of translating a complex legal point and saying to Macri, "You really should get a lawyer to help you understand the meaning of this document. It's very complicated." No, Christina, he said, as long as I can get out of it, it's not so important. And he went ahead and signed. As it turned out, Macri retained his dream of proceeding with the project, and several months later he called and asked me to let him rescind his letter of intent. I declined, but he asked if we could meet, and I agreed. Macri explained that the project was killing him, but that he desperately wanted to make one last effort to get his financing and move forward. I couldn't help feeling sympathetic, having spent years myself working to launch difficult projects. I also appreciated his openness. I took the letter of intent out of a folder and tore it in two in front of Macri. And then I said to him, "If you should ever again decide to sell, I hope you'll think of me first. In the meantime, good luck." Well, that's a great idea, Stacy. I mean, that's exciting. All right, y'all. Well, we'll see where the technology leads us. We are all just, here experiencing it. Maybe I would. Matthew says that they used satellite phones in the desert and they sucked. Well, maybe Starlink is better. Maybe the technology is better now. But I don't know. I mean, even, if they suck, he says Haji cell phones work better. What is that? I don't know anything. Man, I just be living my little life not knowing much. Got no idea. When I told Schrager what I'd done, he wasn't happy, but to this day, I'm convinced that my ripping up that letter, which may or may not have been binding, is the reason that McCree did come back to me, instead of going to any of a dozen other potential bidders, when it finally became clear that he couldn't get his financing after all. What do you all think? Do you think that this guy wanted to do business with Trump because he was willing to rip up that letter of intent? I think that's a powerful statement, and I definitely would think like of that person as somebody I may want to do business with because they, hadn't used something against me. I would feel like more, it would be the kind of action that would make me feel secure to do business with someone when the time came. And also, yeah, it's like you want to do business with people that are not desperate. And I love that about like the way Trump operates. It's so powerful the way he, as he comes into these situations, like he isn't desperately grabbing, trying to make things happen. He lets them happen. Are y'all real in my chat right now? Sometimes I wonder. I know I'm real when I get in the chat, but I wonder, is everyone? The conversation sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness. You're a bot? Okay, well, that's fair. I didn't think you were a bot though. But if you're a bot, I mean, sometimes I act like a bot, maybe we all do. A bot. Though I have interacted with people at times and been like, yo, is this a bot? Oof. Or maybe we're all like, I don't know, maybe they come into us, and use us in our accounts to do whatever. Whoever they is. Matthew knows about Tatiana. Golden Rule is again bringing up his dream woman, I guess. And saying that Matthew knows about her too. Until the panel gets 10 deep, Lord, oh man. That's how you know there's real people out there. Okay, let's continue. Let's see. Even before I signed the purchase papers in January 1985, I had the basic elements of my plan in mind. I intended to build many fewer buildings than Macri, and all along a single block. Views were the site's single strongest selling point, and I wanted every apartment to have unobstructed views either of the Hudson River to the west, the extraordinary cityscape to the east, or both. I also intended to build much taller buildings than Macri had planned, to take full advantage of the views, and also because I believed tall buildings would make the project more majestic and alluring. Lusting over Tatiana. Goodness. I love this already. I love the way he's describing his vision here. I also envisioned a huge retail shopping promenade on the ground level along the riverfront in front of the buildings. What the Upper West Side of Manhattan needs more than anything else, I believe, is basic shopping services, large supermarkets, shoe stores, pharmacies, and hardware stores. Rents along Broadway, Amsterdam Avenue, and Columbus Avenue have gotten so high that small shopkeepers have been driven out. It's easier today to find a $100 pair of leather gloves on Columbus Avenue than a loaf of bread. One advantage of my low land cost is that I will be able to charge more reasonable rents to retail tenants. My plans were contingent, of course, on what sort of zoning I could get. I didn't have to undertake complex cost analyses to know that the only way to make the project feasible was to get approval for many more units and total square feet of buildable space than Macri got. Unlike Macri, I was prepared to hold out for as long as it took, even into another city administration if necessary, to win approval for a plan I believe can be economically workable. My first goal was to put as much distance as possible between Macri's approved project and my own vision for the site. Any link to his project could only hurt me. At the time he sold to me, Macri had yet to sign any formal contract with the city, and the city had yet to issue him a final building permit. I was under no obligation, therefore, to deliver on his many promises. Starting the process over from scratch meant I'd have to spend much more time and money, but I felt there was no other choice. My first critical challenge was to make the project exciting and attractive to the city so that they'd be inclined to give me the zoning approvals I needed. The key was to find a mutual interest. Deals work best when each side gets something it wants from the other. By luck, I picked up the newspaper one morning soon after purchasing the site, and the answer came to me. It turned out that NBC, which had long had headquarters in Rockefeller Center, was looking to relocate. Edward S. Gordon, a top New York real estate broker, then confirmed this to me. Among the possibilities NBC had in mind was to move across the river to New Jersey. Yikes. Where they stood to save considerable money by virtue of that state's lower taxes and land costs. For the city to lose any large company is obviously bad, but there could hardly be a worse blow than losing NBC. Pure economics are part of the issue. The city's economic development agency has estimated that if NBC moves, it will cost New York some 4,000 jobs and perhaps $500 million a year in revenues. The psychological loss would be at least as great. It's one thing to lose a manufacturing company no one has ever heard of. It's another to lose a company that is a crucial part of what makes New York the media capital of the world. Two other networks, ABC and CBS, now produce nearly all their programs in Los Angeles. NBC still does the Today Show, the NBC Nightly News, Late Night with David Letterman, The Cosby Show, Saturday Night Live, and other shows from New York. You can't put a specific dollar value on the excitement and glamour of being home to the #1 network and its top-rated shows. It's like trying to assess what New York would be like without the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty. With the West Side Yards, I had something to offer NBC that no other New York developer could possibly match. Enough space to build huge single-story studios in the style of Hollywood backlots. NBC was making do at Rockefeller Center with a cramped 1.2 million square feet of space. On my site, I could offer them 2 million square feet, as well as room for future expansion, and I'd still have plenty of room left over to build the rest of the project I had in mind. In addition, because my land costs had been so low, I was in a position to offer NBC a price per square foot far below what they might otherwise get in New York. Even at that, to be truly competitive with a New Jersey offer, I knew I'd need a tax abatement from the city, but I also knew that it was in the city's economic interest to provide incentives for NBC to stay. The more I thought about it, the better I liked the idea. Even if NBC ultimately decided not to move to my site, it was still a perfect place to build television and motion picture studios. With or without NBC, I felt studios would be a good, high-profile business. Before I got a commitment from the network, I decided to design my project around the studio concept. The first step was the name, Television City. My second challenge was to find a way to immediately capture the public imagination with my project. The more awareness and excitement I could create early on, the easier it was going to be to attract buyers down the line. A lot of developers build first and promote later, if at all. The world's tallest building was a project I'd considered undertaking even before I purchased the West Side Yards. I've always loved very tall buildings. I remember coming in from Brooklyn as a kid with my father and pleading with him to take us to see the Empire State Building, which at the time was the world's tallest building. But then Chicago built the Sears Tower and took away the title. I loved the challenge of bringing the world's tallest building back to New York, where I felt it really belonged. Hello, Wolf Den. God bless to you as well. It's well, I mean, we're reading Trunt. In a way, I saw the building as a total loss leader. When you build any structure higher than about 50 stories, the construction costs escalate geometrically. If maximum profit is your sole motive, you're far better off putting up 3-story towers than one 150-story skyscraper. On the other hand, I felt the building would ultimately pay for itself as a tourist attraction and an overall lure. After all, how many millions of tourists have come, as I once did, to see the Empire State Building? The next challenge was to find an architect who was as enthusiastic as I was about making such a building the centerpiece of this project. In the end, I interviewed only 2 architects. The first was Richard Meyer, who represents the epitome of the New York architectural establishment. Critics adore Meyer, and he has a big following, but what I discovered very quickly is that Meyer is not the sort of guy who jumps in with great energy and enthusiasm. He prefers to spend time pondering and analyzing and theorizing. For weeks, I waited for him to bring me a scale model of a plan, or at least some preliminary drawings. Nothing came. All right, Loopman, I'll check that out. Maybe after I get off of here, we'll see. Oh. Where are we? In the meantime, I also met with Helmut John. I liked him for very different reasons than I liked Meyer. Maybe it's Jan. Jan was an outsider, German-born, Chicago-based, in no way part of New York architectural establishment. He was a bit of a dandy personally, a very good promoter, and he'd gotten very good notices for some very daring work. Among other things, Jan designed the Xerox Center in downtown Chicago and the high-tech State of Illinois building. At the time I talked with him, he had 4 major buildings underway in Midtown Manhattan. What I liked most about Helmut was that he believed, as I did, that big can be beautiful. He liked spectacle. Less than 3 weeks after we first talked, he arrived in my office with a scale model of a project that incorporated the basic elements I told him I wanted, as well as several of his own. In the summer of 1985, I hired Jan to be the project's chief architect. Stacy says I'm a bit of a dandy. I think I am too. I mean, some of the outfits I put together, some of the ways I behave. It's all good though. It's all in good fun. It's fun. It's fun to dress up and be, extra YOLO, right? Now I'm thinking about the term YOLO. I was like, do I believe that? Is that the right way of talking? And then I'm judging myself. It's silly. Okay, let's continue. By the fall, we'd batted back and forth a dozen possible designs for the site. Both of us felt that the site was so big and so distinctive that it made no sense to try to create something that blended into the surrounding community. Instead, we saw this as a chance to build a self-contained city with a look and a character wholly distinct from the disparate surrounding neighborhoods. On November 18th, we held a press conference to announce our plan for the site. For years, while Macri pursued his Lincoln West plan, the media had ignored him. This time, no fewer than 50 reporters, local and national, showed up for our announcement. I ran down the basic elements. We were calling it Television City, and we hoped to lure NBC as our prime tenant. We intended to build a mixed-use development totaling 18.5 million square feet of commercial, residential, and retail space. 8,500 parking spaces and almost 40 acres of parks and open space, including a 13-block waterfront promenade. Ooh, doesn't that sound nice? Who here loves a waterfront promenade? Anybody spend time on those? I know I like mine. I don't know much about Huey Long. I mean, I've heard of him, but I've never really got into studying him or looking into the story of his life. My goodness. Wasn't he assassinated? I do love the word promenade. It sounds so fun. But no, I love to go down by the river. It's nice. Yeah, I like that too, Stacy. I like that. Virginia was named after a queen. So there you go. America, man. I'm getting all patriotic just thinking about it. I can feel like the pride for my nation swelling in my chest. Not just pride, but love. Love for America. Yeah, Matthew. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, how many of the guys who call in and complain about Lincoln are Republicans? You know, they vote for the same party that Lincoln founded, but they hate him. Well, he didn't really found it, but you know, like brought into popularity his party. Although I would have hella been a Republican back in the day. I would have been all up in that. All them thrills. We're getting loser. We're changing society. I'd be all excited, caught up in it. Lincoln sold out to the Rothschilds. Good Lord. You're right about that, Matthew. He did, didn't he? Did it for us. He did it for America. We needed him. Okay, enough of my being silly. Am I being silly? I don't know. All I'm saying is the North won the Civil War, okay? We won. It is what it is. You know, it's the best thing that could have happened when you really think about it. It's what God wanted. So why are we still complaining about it? I hate when people get all up in history and start complaining. Like, move on. Move on. We are here now. Obviously, like, it's all stories we tell anyway. All right, Golden Rule TV. Well, we won. We did what we needed to do, right? It was serious business. What's up, Char Baby Yoda? Char Baby Yoda in chat. What's up? I bet Maina has a tattoo of the Southern Cross. That's what all the like redneck Australians fly. Are you all familiar with the Southern Cross flags? And like tattoos and stuff. Just looking it up for my own memory's sake. Seattle and Portland are fraternal twins. What up, Skyjack? Much love from Seattle. Seattle, baby. The Emerald City, huh? How are things in Seattle? They're cold here. I almost, I left my apartment, but I did not leave the building today. It is cold. I don't want to. I don't have it in me. All right, golden rule. Intervention, you mean that money? Okay, we won. We made better deals. Okay, who won? Who won? Move on. The South is amazing. I do think it is amazing. A lot of interesting culture and people. Someone threw a hunk of concrete at you? You got persecuted for being a Trump supporter? Lord, it's beginning again. An Antifa threw concrete at his head. We need to get you on the Hake report. I do go on the Hake. I call Hake all the time. I need to not call Hake so much. What are you talking about? I mean, World War II. Wow. Okay, we're getting real in the chat. Here we go. What do you mean the right outcome? What happened was what was supposed to happen. All right. Yeah, these Southern Cross things, this little symbol here. Let's see. Okay, the flag, but like, what about the tattoos? Yeah, this is what they get. So this is what Maina has tattooed. Oh, isn't that cute? Look at that one. That one is hideous. That one's pretty cool. I like that one. Oh man, this one. Lord. Oh, thank you, Skyjack. Better than Joe from Phoenix? How could I be better than Joe? Dang. Oh, this one. Ain't that cute? Dainty. Oh. This one just done. The rib cage. Oh, this one's on the face. Wow. I'm not gonna lie, that looks pretty sick. I mean, that, you know, it's an intense tattoo, but that's pretty sick. Looks like gunshot wounds. Okay. Oh wow, this one there's a kangaroo in the middle. Oh, on the foot. Oh, a little boob peekage. Avert your eyes. Well, anyway. Oh man, are those nautical stars? You remember when everyone was getting the nautical star tattoos? Oh man. Dijon Paul, where are you from in the South? I do have some cool, shout out to the cool people in the South in my chat tonight. I'm not trying to be a jerk or act like I look down on you. I don't in any way. I don't believe in that stuff. Okay, we're gonna stop sharing. But yeah, you get the idea. So that's what Maina has tattooed. Not showing Tatiana's tattoos. I will look at her tattoos, and then if I choose to show them on my show another time, I will. But I'm not just gonna look up some chick's tattoos willy-nilly. Okay, my book has been shipped, guys. I'm pretty excited. All right, something to look forward to. Sorry, the email came in. I saw Court. Where did I see Court? I saw him in like JLP chat or something. And he came into my chat this weekend. Actually, I'm pretty sure he did. So he's been around. You think I would give you bad advice, Terry? No, but I don't know what I'm going to see. And I don't want to put your like other girl up. You know, this is my time. Y'all are supposed to be admiring me in my time. I'm going to pull up some other girl so y'all can be like, oh, wow, she's so pretty. Like, come on. You're supposed to be appreciating me in this time. Oh, you can get deals on muskets? Mina, God, don't say that. Yeah. Why aren't you responding to me making fun of you having a Southern Cross tattoo? Me making something up to be silly. Thank you. He said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't admire you. That's all I'm saying. You know how women get, we get all insecure, you know. We just need to be reassured. I thought it was for my award-winning personality, Stacy, and my entertainment value. Aren't I fun to watch? Don't I like, I know it's whatever. Now I'm feeling insecure about what I offer intellectually here, which, you know, geez. Yoda, gross. Gross, Yoda. It begins the gross emojis, the terrorist emojis, chat terrorism. That's why I get all like worked up about Yoda. It's the emojis. What do I offer intellectually? Nothing. You're right. Nobody really wants to hear this story. Okay, let's get back into the book. Now that we've concluded. To me, the beauty of the plan was its simplicity and its grandeur. In addition to the world's tallest building, we put up just 7 other buildings, 3 at the north end, 4 at the south. A decked-over 3-level platform in front of the buildings, including parking and enclosed shopping, would permit us to put a pedestrian promenade on top at a level slightly higher than the adjacent West Side Highway. The result would be to provide an unimpeded view of the river from virtually any spot on the site. We'd also have enormous space for parks. In all, our proposal was about 50% bigger than Macri's, but even at that, the overall density was lower than that of many smaller developments squeezed onto tiny midtown sites. Most reporters, I find, have very little interest in exploring the substance of a detailed proposal for a development. They look instead for the sensational angle. In this case, that may have worked to my advantage. I was prepared for questions about density and traffic and the mix of housing on the site. But instead, all the reporters wanted to talk about was the world's tallest building. It gave the project an instant mystique. When I got home that night, I switched on the CBS Evening News, expecting to hear news from the opening of the summit between Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. Dan Rather was in Geneva anchoring the program, but after summarizing the day's developments, suddenly he was saying, in New York City today, developer Donald Trump announced plans to build the world's tallest building. It demonstrated how powerful and intoxicating a symbol I'd found for my project. The reaction to the world's tallest building was hardly uniformly positive, but I fully expected that. The controversy actually helped keep the project in the news. Stacy says this is a freak show, not a snake pit. We can call it, what do you like that title, the freak show? Instead of calling you guys the snake pit, I can call you the freak show. Yeah, Court's latest guitar is pretty exciting. He said he's making one for JLP, which is like very cool. I bet he gets all kinds of fun gifts. I bet all the guys do. I mean, don't you just want to send them a present? Guys, Christmas is coming. You don't like either, Charviviota? No. I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to do. We're not calling it that. We are not doing that. You did not get me. Hello, Rise and Inspire. What a nice name. Rise and Inspire. Yoda, don't say that. Don't say things like that. Why are you saying such a thing and saying it in my chat of all places? No, Stacy. Stacy, no. We're not calling it that. I guess that's how I could refer to all of you. I could just call you these nuts. Not D's, but these. Nuts is in crazies. Shut up, Yoda. He is not. He's the strongest man on earth. No. That's interesting. Toughest I've ever seen. No, he's lovely. Why do you say such nasty things? Don't make me like get upset. I don't want to be upset. God. Yoda, you're weird. I didn't like the song today, but I like his music most of the time. It's fun. Even the song today isn't terrible, but it's like not something I would put on. I don't know. I have my own terrible music I like that sounds like noise to other people. So let's see. I lost my place, and now I'm trying to find it. I keep doing this where I lose my spot. We're glad you're here too, Rise and Inspire. The chat is just the chat. You know, you can get in the chat. I'm reading you a story from Donald Trump, you know, but the chat is just the chat. We're just having fun. Oh, what up? John Siri's here. How are you, crisis actor John Siri? Or Jan Siri. I keep doing that. I'm sorry, Jan Siri. You tried to come into my chat, but you got mugged by Mr. Mad. He hazed you. Do not be discouraged. Please come back again at another chill stream. This is the union break. Thank you. Joe Arpaio Pink. Joe Arpaio Pink. Shut up, Yoda. Shut up, Yoda. No, why did you say that? Why did you give me that mental image? Oh, God. I like the color pink. That sounds nice. I don't know, y'all. I adore him. I don't like what you're saying about him. I think he's just amazing. So, enough. Enough. Okay. I'm just going to start here. If I've read it, I've read it. I don't think I have. Most reporters I find have very little interest in exploring the substance of a detailed proposal for a development. They look instead for the sensational angle. In this case, that may have worked to my advantage. I was prepared for questions about density and traffic and the mix of housing on the site, but instead, all the reporters wanted to talk about was the world's tallest building. It gave the project an instant mystique. When I got home that night, I switched on the CBS Evening News, expecting to hear news from the opening of the summit between Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. Dan Rather was in Geneva anchoring the program, but after summarizing the day's developments, suddenly he was saying, "In New York City today, developer Donald Trump announced plans to build the world's tallest building." Stop talking about him in my chat. Why do you have to do that? Everything about him is amazing. I hate y'all. Don't talk about my hate or ever come for him. He is perfect. Stop it. You don't know. You don't know anything. You want up here? Are you jealous? All right. Come here. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Come on. He's got like hundreds of shirts, I'm sure. I love you. I love you, handsome boy. What you doing? What you doing? I know, Stacy. I was underwhelmed when I first saw him, but I'm into it. I don't know. I got sucked in. It gets really funny sometimes. His website looks good. What do you mean? He did a lot of work on that. He's always working on his stuff. He's always making it as good as he can and being as helpful as he can. Stop. Right on, Young Siri. They both went. Pasadena City College is the Harvard of community city colleges. Is that true? I don't kiss him enough. You don't know how much I kiss him. But he could use some kisses, couldn't he? Yes, he could. No. I'm a good kitty. I don't know anything about community city colleges or city community colleges, y'all. But I'm glad to hear that. Shut up, Yoda. I hate you. Like, so gross. Kissing cats gives you cooties? No. You ain't got no cooties. You got no cooties. You got cooties? Where'd you pick up them cooties? Where was you picking up some cooties at? No. Were you picking up cooties somewhere? Was you? Was you kissing on someone else? You wasn't. You wasn't. I opened up the door today. You didn't even want to be out there. It was too cold. It wasn't nice. There wasn't any sun to lay in. It wasn't feeling good. No. Oh, that's good. Well, I'm glad that he's had such good opportunities. I need you all to stop. 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 Zima. I always wanted to try Zima. There was like a character on Mad TV that drank Zima. Made it look glamorous. Was it Mad TV? Or maybe it was something else. Thank you, Keysmo. Exactly. Exactly. That's how I feel as well. Shut up, Matthew. Why you gotta talk about that? Are you gonna sit down? Are you gonna lie down? What you want from me right now? You just want pats? You better not want more food. Oh, Fresca. I had a friend who loved Fresca. She was all about the margarita pizzas, frozen margarita pizza, and the Fresca nights. That was her jam. She was cute. She was a sweet girl. Michelle. I left her in Alaska and never spoke to her again or kept up with her. But she was a real one. Is that true, Yoda? I think you're making things up about both of them. I don't think you know them that well. Fresca in the promenade. That sounds nice. I don't really like Frescas. Don't they have aspartame in them? I prefer it to be like regular sugar or, no sugar, preferably. So, like, he's like, ask Zenny. I know. Zenny, he knows, huh? But you say you know things that you don't know. I see you make things up. Or you twist. You twist. You'll take the truth and then you'll like make it into some sort of cockamamie thing. For a thrill, Rise and Inspire has submitted. He has submitted. Right on. You have been wrong about me, and I'm not going to repeat what you've said because you've been lying, and I'm not going to repeat it. I used to say mean things or imply mean things. You hurt people's feelings, Yoda. I'm a real woman with real feelings. Lin Yan Chin unblocked me today, guys. I've been blocked by Lin Yan Chin. I didn't even know who he was. All right. I didn't know he was in chat like that. Now I have to, and I might block him because his messages are crazy in the chat. Like, you all have been reading that this whole time. But he thinks I'm a transsexual, he said, which hurt my feelings. I was like, what? You blocked him, Zenny? Okay, I might have to, though, yeah. He thinks it's artistic. I don't know what he thinks. I think maybe it's a white guy that's LARPing, maybe. You subscribe. I thought that was what you meant, but submit is even funnier. Submit to my channel. Like, share, and submit. Moo dang energy. Cute. That's that cute little hippo. She gonna eat somebody one day. Good for her. I need to get back in the book, guys. What time is it? Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit longer. Not much. Okay. The reaction to the world's tallest building was hardly uniformly positive, but I fully expected that. The controversy actually helped keep the project in the news. Critics insisted that such a building was unnecessary, that people wouldn't want to live up so high, and that I'd never be able to build it anyway. Newsweek did a full-page story about the building, headlined, "Donald Trump's Lofty Ambition." The New York Times ran an editorial about my plan, which probably added to its credibility. Time alone, the editorial said, can distinguish between great dreams and vain illusions. It's too early to know which describes Donald Trump's desire to loom over New York and all other cityscapes with a 150-story tower. My favorite reaction to the world's tallest building came from columnist George Will. I've always liked Will, in part because he's not afraid to challenge fashion. Donald Trump is not being reasonable, Will wrote. But then man does not live by reason alone. Fortunately, Trump, who believes that excess can be a virtue, is as American as Manhattan's skyline, which expresses the republic's erupting energies. He says the super skyscraper is necessary because it is unnecessary. He believes architectural exuberance is good for us, and he may have a point. Brashness, zest, and elan are part of this country's character. My only regret was that George Will didn't have a seat on the City Planning Commission. To my surprise, as time passed, opposition to the world's tallest building seemed to diminish. Critics focused instead on other aspects of the development, which I expected to be less controversial. In particular, the Times architecture critic, Paul Goldberger, launched something of a crusade against Television City. A week after I announced my plans, Goldberger wrote a long piece entitled, "Is Trump's latest proposal just a castle in the air?" You like that, Donald Trunt? Donald Trunt. My father would buy that moodang and take it home and make his own rice and survive on that in the good old days. Lord have mercy. He's definitely not white. He looks like an Asian Gregatron. Okay, so you've seen pics. Okay. Well, if you've seen pics, then I believe. Barbecue pork. Yum. I could go for some barbecue pork. We shall see. Okay, let's see. His major criticism, aside from the fact that he simply doesn't like tall buildings, was that the project had been sufficiently integrated into the rest of the neighborhood. That, of course, was precisely what I liked best about it. The worst thing I could do, I was convinced, was to build something that blended into the surroundings. 10 years earlier, I'd taken the same position on the rebuilding of the Commodore Hyatt Hotel. The Grand Central neighborhood was dying, and I felt the only chance at success was to build a spectacular new hotel sheathed in reflective glass so that it stood apart from the dull older buildings in the neighborhood. The hotel became an enormous success, and eventually, even the critics came around. Reading Goldberger, I felt I was reliving the Commodore experience. I'd felt certain that I'd get far better reviews from Paul Goldberger and certain other critics simply by cutting my buildings in half and making them look more like the better-known pre-war buildings on the West Side. The The problem was that my project would no longer be majestic or distinctive, and it wouldn't sell. It irritates me that critics who've neither designed nor built anything themselves are given carte blanche to express their views in the pages of major publications, whereas the targets of their criticism are almost never offered space to respond. Of course, I can be irritated all I want, and it won't do any good. So long as a critic writes for a newspaper like the New York Times, his opinion will continue to carry great weight, whether I like it or not. I can't with y'all. I can't with y'all. Hi. By the spring of 1986, the project we'd proposed was at something of a standstill with city planning. Much of the explanation was that city government itself had become almost completely paralyzed under the mayoral administration of Ed Koch. Oh, I should probably respond to that at some point. Okay. I'm lost in the chat right now. Okay, let's continue. Koch has achieved something quite miraculous. He's presided over an administration that is both pervasively corrupt and totally incompetent. Richard Daley, the former mayor of Chicago, managed to survive corruption scandals because at least he seemed able to operate his city efficiently. Under Koch, the problem of homeless has grown far worse. The vast majority of the city remains unwired for cable. Highways have gone unrepaired. Subway tunnels have been left unfinished. Companies have continued to flee to other cities, and city services have deteriorated inexorably. Jeez. Yeah, Yoda is a bit of a whirlwind. We're grateful for him. He adds life and spice to the chat. Shout out to the chat. Keeping it going, keeping us on. And sometimes, taking us on wild little adventures. Meanwhile, no fewer than a dozen Koch appointees and cohorts have been indicted on charges of bribery, perjury, and accepting kickbacks, or have been forced to resign in disgrace after admitting various ethical transgressions. The criminally indicted include Jay Churoff, the former head of the Taxi and Limousine Commission, John McLaughlin, the hospital's chief, and Anthony Amoruso, the former transportation commissioner. Victor Botnick, one of Koch's closest personal advisors, quit after it was revealed that he'd lied about his educational background and had taken numerous unnecessary trips under the pretext of doing city business. Nice. Oh, you knocked it over, baby. Well, Yansiri, you're welcome here. All right. We don't see you that way at all. Not in my chat. You're one of us. Yeah, I do need to put the tree up, don't I? It is nearing that time. Probably do it over Thanksgiving. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. It'll be fun. Let's see. Bess Meyerson, the Cultural Affairs Commissioner and one of Koch's best friends, resigned in disgrace and was eventually indicted after it came out that she'd given a job to the daughter of a judge she was seeking to influence and had then lied repeatedly about her involvement. Later, it came out that Koch ignored evidence that Meyerson had acted improperly. The irony is that Koch made his reputation by boasting about his integrity and incorruptibility. It doesn't seem to occur to him that if the people he appoints prove to be corrupt, then in the end he must take the responsibility. To the contrary, at first hint that any of his friends might be in trouble, Koch can't run fast enough the other way. For example, when his close friend Donald Maines, the late Queensborough president, came under investigation and tried to commit suicide, Koch immediately called him a crook. Good night, Jan Siri, and good night to your cat snoring for me. Don't participate in that pagan BS. Y'all, I got a fake tree, okay? It's not like I'm gonna go out and kill a tree. I've got my little plastic rinky-dink tree. It'll be fun to put up. The irony is that Koch made his reputation by boasting about his integrity and incorruptibility. It doesn't seem to occur to him that if the people he appoints prove to be corrupt, then in the end he must take the responsibility. To the contrary, at the first hint that any of his friends might be in trouble, Koch can't run fast enough the other way. For example, when his close friend Donald Maines, the late Queensborough president, came under investigation and tried to commit suicide, Koch immediately called him a crook. Even though Maines had yet to be indicted for anything. At the time, Maines was recovering in a hospital. Weeks later, he did succeed in killing himself. Oh, how terrible. Yoda says, JC got in your ass the other night for talking smack on him, Terri. How did you feel about that? And will you continue to laugh at his gayness? At Terri Strange. I don't know that I've ever laughed at his gayness. I don't really see him through that angle. I know it's important to him to express that, I suppose, but that's not really what I try to see about him. Or any criticism I've ever made of him had nothing to do with that or anything like that. So I don't know. I did appreciate that he expressed to me that he felt I did feel I hadn't realized that maybe I'd actually hurt his feelings because I guess I don't know, I'd gotten, I don't know, that was a breakthrough for me. When I was interacting with him, I was like, wait, did I hurt your feelings? And he was like, yes. And I was like, oh, my bad. Okay. You're sensitive. All right. Like I'll be cool. I'll try to be cooler and not like, because I can be very cutting too. It doesn't matter how you talk. He will turn it into a way to ridicule and extort you. Oh, Lord. I'm not sure that Spider wasn't gay, Yoda. I don't know. Hello, Vebzia. She says, sorry, I encountered your RadFem videos and it caught my attention that you don't engage with RadFem anymore. Can I ask what changed? Where to begin? I did some like actual streams on this if you want to go check them out. Like they're titled Why I'm No Longer a Feminist. You can go check it out and actually like hear a full rundown of what was going on with me at the time. It's like maybe a year or two old at this point, but you can hear like kind of me explain the change in my consciousness. Just because I don't want to get into all that, and I'm sure you are interested if you've seen some of my older content. Stacy gives a shout out to the YV_edit is my favorite radfem now. Oh, Lord. I didn't like being called a radfem, though. I was always like, I am a radical feminist. That's a good way of putting it too, Zenny. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like God rescued me. That's really how I feel, honestly. Like, I feel like God took some veil that was before my eyes and let me see things clearly. And, you know, it was a great thing. And I recommend you be very careful about what you get into and that you don't let ideas take hold of your life. You know, and also don't worry about things so much. You're a woman, be a woman, you know? Embrace it. Don't, you know, run from it or try to think you can escape some aspect of it, or, you know. That's amazing, Golden Rule TV. Yeah, I feel like God has protected me through my life as well. It's so interesting, like when I look back at my life, like I do see the hand of God moving, and it's really powerful to actually see like the way things have been prepared in my life and the way things have like just, I don't know. That too, Matthew. Yes, Stacy, I did have that experience. Oh yeah, that if I had fallen, y'all, I would have gotten busted up. Praise be to God. Whatever saved me, an angel, I believe, or the hand of God. Like I felt myself like fall. I don't know how to describe it. Like I knew I was going down, and then all of a sudden I wasn't. It was the most crazy. I forgot all about that. Girl, I forgot all about that. It happened to me, but I'm like, whoa, you remembered. Thank you. Thank you for being with me, Stacy. You're a real one. Because I talked about that a long time ago. The golden redwoods are great. I've lived around them 65 years. Show the power and majesty of the Creator. Yeah. Just looking around you, you know. Man, ugh. That just gave me a chill thinking about that again. Yeah, thank you, God, for always protecting me and being with me. Like Thanksgiving time, what do we need to be thankful for? God, you know, number one thing, give thanks to Him at this time. He's the whole reason for any of it, you know. Thank you, God, for another year of life, for abundance and bounty and, you know, people and yeah, everything. It's just life is so beautiful and it's such a gift and we're so blessed in so many ways. It's just so important to take time to be focused on Him and make it about Him, you know. Well, anyway, let's continue. I feel so bad for this Maines guy. God. As for the Koch appointees who managed to avoid criminal indictment, the scandal is their sheer incompetence. Many just lack talent. Others seem to have concluded that the safest approach to protecting their jobs is to stop making decisions of any kind. At least then they can't be accused of breaking the law. The problem is that when officials in huge city governments stop making decisions, you get the bureaucratic equivalent of a gridlock. Dishonesty is intolerable, but inaction and incompetence can be every bit as bad. In any case, the city was also stonewalling my project as a means of trying to force me to make changes. In my view, it was a form of economic blackmail. So long as I resisted their ideas, they held up to my approvals and my costs mounted. Golden Rule TV, oh my gosh. He said the F word. I've never seen him. I don't know. I don't know much about him. Hey. Specifically, city planning wanted me to provide more direct access to the waterfront, add more east-west streets connecting the project to the existing city street grid, and move the world's tallest building south, away from the existing residential neighborhoods. I disagreed with their suggestions, but I also recognize that zoning is always a matter of negotiation. As hard as I push, in the end, I'm practical. It took making some compromises to get the project moving forward, and the result didn't undermine the project's economic viability. I was prepared to make the changes. In March, I decided to move the location of the world's tallest building south to 63rd Street. The people at City Planning were immediately more enthusiastic. Around the same time, the New York Times had made a public and environmental impact study of the site. Some of its conclusions, I felt, would ultimately help my cause. I'd always believed that any concerns about density were unwarranted. In truth, the west side of Manhattan is relatively underpopulated. According to the census, the area declined in population from 245,000 in 1960 to 204,000 in 1980. Wow, that's a lot of people gone. Stacy is speculating that Yoda is an INTP. Introverted, intuitive, thinking, perceiving. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Interesting insight. Shout out to Tar Baby Yoda. He's always giving shout outs, but he never gets the shout outs. Shout out to Tar Baby Yoda in the chat, who is also a channel member. Right on. Okay, let's see. In March, I decided to move the location of the world's tallest building south to 63rd Street. The people at City Planning were immediately more enthusiastic. Around the same time, the New York Times had made public an environmental impact study of the site. Some of its conclusions, I felt, would ultimately help my cause. I'd always believed that any concerns about density were unwarranted. In truth, the west side of Manhattan is relatively underpopulated. Oh, wait, no, I just read that. Only 3,100 new apartments went up in the neighborhood between 1980 and 1984. Adding several thousand more hardly represents development run amok. The study also pointed out several benefits that would come from the project. For example, the study predicted that the west side would gain business worth at least $500 million a year from new residents, as well as tens of thousands of jobs, both during construction and permanently on the site. Providing jobs, in my view, is a far more constructive solution to unemployment than creating welfare programs. Finally, the study found that any added vehicular congestion in the area, a major concern among some critics, could be eased by improvements in local subways and the addition of a jitney service, which I'd already proposed. Even after moving the location of the world's tallest building, I began to believe that I might have to make a change in architects. I like the fact that Helmut Jahn was an outsider, but I think it hurt us with the people at City Planning. No one at the commission ever seemed quite comfortable with Helmut. It was never anything more specific than that. But in the end, I felt that was enough. If the project was going to move forward, there had to be some spirit of cooperation. Reluctantly, I decided to make a change. A lot of people were surprised that I chose Alex Cooper even more than Richard Meyer. Cooper was Jan's antithesis. Legendarily civic-minded, he built his reputation as an urban planner, served 5 years on the City Planning Commission, and helped write the rules of the planning process I was now going through. Along with his partner at the time, Stanton Exit, Cooper had just finished work on the master plan for a development at the southern tip of Manhattan called Battery Park. The critics loved it, calling it a classic example of enlightened urban architecture. I wasn't a total fan of the Battery Park project myself. For example, while the project was situated on the waterfront, many of its apartments faced other buildings and therefore had no water views at all. In addition, I felt that a number of the buildings were totally undistinguished architecturally. However, Cooper's contributions to the master plan, the placement of streets, parks, and other amenities I did like, and I felt he could bring some of those ideas to our site. I had first interviewed Cooper in October 1985, shortly before going public with the Helmut Jahn plan for the site. There were already indications that the city might have problems with the way we'd design our open space, and I was interested in hiring Cooper to work with Jahn just on that. Working together didn't appeal to either of them, however, so I put the idea on the back burner. I called Cooper again in May 1986 and offered him the chance to take over sole responsibility for the Television City job. In my opinion, he was the guy best positioned to get my project moving forward. As for him, although we might have been on different sides of the fence in the past, what smart, ambitious architect could pass up such an opportunity? Television City was probably the best and most challenging design job available anywhere. It was about time I challenged Alex. that he got associated with something big and bold instead of small and precious. To NBC, to his credit, Alex jumped at the opportunity. My God, he told a reporter later, it's 3/4 of a mile of Hudson frontage. So you don't lightly just walk away. Okay, guys, I think I need to stop. My throat is a little dry, and I think I'm out of my drink here. And it's getting late, and I need to go to bed. And so do you guys, if you know what's good for you. So yeah, I'm gonna head off, but thank you for being here. Shout out to the, shout out to these nuts, these nuts in the chat for keeping it lively and keeping me company while I read through the book tonight. I hope you all take care, and I'll be back another time. Bye.